Hello again, I'm Ed Spivey Jr. and today I'll be reading from my January column from Sojourners Magazine. Unlike most of my columns, this one has what we call an editor's note, an interjectory voice that is distinct from my own. Thus, in order to convey that difference, the voice of the editor, a man that I've known for years and for whom I have enormous respect, will be conveyed by this sock puppet. Some of you young adults out there who attended my Sunday school class years ago will probably remember that I often use sock puppetry to convey the essential truths of the Bible, or to portray some of its characters, such as Mary, who, when pregnant, confided to her best friend Elizabeth, "It's such an honor to be carrying the child of God, but I still hope I don't get stretch marks." Or who can forget the portrayal of the disciple Thomas, grim and skeptical in the presence of the risen Lord. So let's begin today's essay, which is not about the economy, by the way. Kidding. Of course it's about the economy. The world economy continues to spin downward despite my previous column on the subject, which was intended to bring needed comic relief to struggling world markets. Unfortunately, their Dow assessment of the future prevented them from just tossing back their heads and letting go with a hearty chuckle. So I say, why so glum, overly leveraged world markets? Or, alternatively, laugh, economy clown, laugh. There, that should do the trick. In contrast, I'm sure Sojourners readers have been keeping it in perspective and finding humor in the common experience of the new economic reality, such as watching sheriff's deputies place their belongings in the sidewalk in front of their former homes. "Careful with that antique china cabinet, it was my grandmother's." But as bad as it is here, we Americans know that things are much worse in China, a place where children go to bed every night without flat-screen televisions. They're on back order. Not to mention the other things we can be grateful for, such as our health, which at least we have, unless you're sick. But even then, there's a bright side. You may have lost your health care when you got laid off, but as temporary President George W. Bush confidently assured us, treatment is as close as the nearest emergency room. Hint, bring a book, maybe two. Like a philosopher once said, stop, this is not helping. There's not enough left in my 401k to buy a Sarah Palin campaign mug, and I really want one. So quit the false platitudes and get back to your usual drivel that, unexpectedly, we find ourselves missing right now. Okay, fine. It probably would be better to take our minds off the economic mess and focus on other themes, something universal like, say, the weather, which is really cold now, brutally cold, not to mention gray, with a wind that strips hope from the soul and makes you want to read long Irish novels by authors who suffered from chronic alcoholism and died penniless, usually in that order. It's the kind of wind that cuts through you like a scalpel, or, if John McCain had won the election, both a scalpel and an axe. So you got nothing, right? Okay, how about this? As winter continues and the pleasant auburn hues of fall become a distant memory, the good news is that we'll finally stop seeing seasonal pumpkin scones everywhere. And for that matter, pumpkin-themed muffins, cookies, and cupcakes, all of which are incredibly fattening and should be outlawed by the new administration, just as soon as I eat these last three. Good topic. Takes our minds off 401ks with pumpkin scones. Sweet. And in the spring there is a hope of renewal, of flowers in April, of picnics in the park, nice touch, and family walks to the town square to shout vulgarities at, say, former Lehman Brothers CEO Richard Fuld, who, given the slightest shred of street justice, would be standing in 16th century style wooden stocks in his boxer shorts. "Wait, what are you doing? We don't need retribution fantasies right now." "Okay, maybe just the one." And an ox cart would be rolling by, pulled by real oxen, with disgraced former AIG executive Joe Cassano sitting on top of oxen droppings on the way to the manure factory. He'd also be in his boxer shorts, since, in a hasty effort to shelter his ill-gotten gains, he moved the rest of his clothing to offshore closets. I could add the former Fed chair to this reverie, but who wants to imagine an exuberant and irrational Alan Greenspan in boxer shorts? And if I know my fantasies, a bucket of stale pumpkin muffins will be nearby for those who wish to take out their fiscal frustrations via pelting. Because nothing brings a community together like a good pelting. Note to Jesus, on the face of it, sir, pelting may not exactly fall into your category of turning the other cheek, but just this once, if you wouldn't mind turning your own cheek, actually your entire head, and closing your ears for a few seconds, we would really appreciate it. And don't be distracted, Lord, by what sounds like stale muffins striking bare skin. It's just pumpkin rain that falls on the rich and poor alike, but mainly the rich right now, if I can just get the distance right. And Jesus said, "Let the one who is without the sin cast the first stone." Actually, they're muffins, sir. And finally, now that there is no danger of violating our tax-exempt status, and this cannot in any way influence the results of the presidential election, I'm leaning toward Obama.